Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from Am I the Jerk? Our first post is by Throwaway. Am I the jerk for not allowing my brother and his boyfriend to come to my honeymoon? I, 25F, got married to my husband, 27M, almost a year ago. We weren't able to afford to go on the honeymoon we wanted back then, so that's why we saved up so we could go to Hawaii for our 1-year anniversary. The trip is supposed to happen next month. We mentioned our plans to our family when my brother, 23M, suddenly chimed in saying that Hawaii is a great idea and that him and his boyfriend will join too. I was taken aback when he said that, and I told him that this isn't a random trip and it's supposed to be our honeymoon, but he said that we could do a double couples honeymoon together, so him and his boyfriend can feel the experience of one as well. I told him that if he wants to feel the experience of a honeymoon, they can just go to a separate trip instead of hijacking ours. But my brother went off at me saying that I'm selfish for not sharing this experience with him, when I know that our country doesn't allow gay marriages, and so he's never gonna feel the experience of a real honeymoon, and this will be as close as he gets, and somehow my parents are now backing him up as well. Well, mostly my mom, but my dad usually goes along with her in order to avoid family conflict. Not gonna lie, at this point, I feel like giving my brother the wrong location of our honeymoon so there's no possibility of him and his boyfriend somehow hijacking it. Am I the jerk? Our next post is by OK Ice. Am I the jerk for not defending mother-in-law after she kept saying my daughter looks nothing like me? I'm not sure what crawled up my mother-in-law's butt, but her and I got along so well before I got pregnant. She called me her daughter, came over to see me all the time, called me randomly to just talk, told me she loves me all the time, etc. But after I got pregnant, something switched in her. She stopped calling. She never said I love you back when I said it. She only came over to see my husband, and 9 times out of 10 it was trying to get him out of the house to go with her. Barely gives me a hello goodbye in passing. She even tried staying in the labor and delivery room after she was already told no because her baby needs support, and clung to my husband's arm several times, trying to get him to go sit on the couch with her instead of standing by me where he was. She was kicked out by nurses. Since I had my daughter 3 months ago, she has come over a good 10 to 15 times and has literally only held my kid twice. She just follows my husband around everywhere and still tries to get him to leave with her to go do chores tasks for her. Changing tires, changing oil, fixing her computer, moving around her house, etc., etc., etc. And honestly, none of that bothers me nearly as much as her comments about how my daughter looks nothing like me and looks exactly like her and my husband. For a bit of context, my husband looks nothing like his mom. He is a spitting image of his father. His mom is short, blonde, brown eyes. He is super tall, black hair, green eyes. You can't tell they are related at all. But she insists my daughter looks just like her and my husband and nothing like me. She's made these comments more times than I can count, and I just give a yeah okay, Becky, and leave it. But yesterday, I hosted a dinner for the family and obviously invited her. She shows up with a scrapbook album with a bunch of photos of her and my husband from birth to present. She was telling everyone who would listen that my daughter was basically not even mine if you go off of looks. My husband spoke up a few times with a clipped, "She actually looks just like my wife," but his mom didn't acknowledge him. But then she got to my mom, and my mom, being a no bullshit woman, said, "Are you blind or are you just being ignorant? That girl looks just like my daughter and nothing like you. Kinda weird to me that you are desperately pushing the narrative that the baby looks like your son, and you considering your son looks nothing like you either." No one in the house said anything, but a few of them were chuckling. My husband also didn't say anything, but he looked more like a deer in headlights than anything. My mother-in-law then left. She group texted my husband and I later on saying she will never forgive us for not defending her against my mom making a scene and embarrassing her in front of everyone. I don't feel bad, my husband does. Am I the jerk? Edit. She has 4 kids. My husband is the youngest, he's 27. Her 2 daughters have 1 child each, both 12-year-old girls. Her other son has 5 kids. She takes her daughter's kids once a month. She has never made a conscious effort with any of her other son's kids outside of his oldest, 9F. She doesn't act like this with her other kids at all. She acts uninterested altogether. Ages, not sure if it's relevant. Mother-in-law is 61. My mom is 44. My husband and I are both 27. Our next post is by Few Confection. Am I the jerk for telling my family their comments about my son's name are not making me regret the name, but instead are making me regret them? My husband and I welcomed our son into the world in November. We chose the name Reed for him after some searching. Neither of us got our first choices, but we love the name, and it fits our son beautifully, we believe. I knew my son's name was a bit of a standout among my family. They like to reuse the same names that are popular, and always seem to float pretty high in naming charts. For boys, the top 3 in our family are James, Benjamin, and William. But Reed isn't a weird or unheard of name. My family were all very quiet when we announced the name, and almost immediately they started dropping comments about people making weird naming choices for their children, which never directly mentioned my husband and me, but we both felt it was aimed at us. Then they commented a few times how there's nothing wrong with good, solid, classic names that everyone knows and loves and reuses. But then they started to say Reed was an odd choice, or that they had no idea where we found such a name, even though it's in the top 400 choices. My parents accused me of trying to be trendy and not thinking about my son's future. I decided to confront my family without my husband present because I felt like it wasn't fair to drag him into it more. I asked them what their problem was and why they were being so mean about the name. They told me they hated Reed, and they felt it was a very unattractive name, and we did not think it through at all. They told me we should have reconsidered and given him a real name, not something trendy that came up in the last 20 to 30 years. They said we had so many beautiful names to choose from, and we made a horrible decision. Then they said they had tried to gently show us the light, but we ignored their efforts. I told them if their comments about my son's name were supposed to make me regret the choice, then they failed, because all it did was make me regret them because they were being rude and hurtful. My family did not take my comment well and told me I was being rude and I was behaving like a child who can't accept the truth. Am I the jerk? Our next post is by Altruistic North. Am I the jerk for not wanting to spend the entire vacation sun-up to sundown with my husband's family? My husband and I were planning a vacation for us and our 2 kids. We'll be gone for 8 days in the summer. We've saved for this trip for years and we're super excited. This place is about 3 hours away from my husband's family. They invited us to spend some days with them. However, from the start, I said I wanted alone time with just the 4 of us. With the kids getting older, we don't get a lot of time with them. We don't have the money to travel often. I suggested 3 to 4 days with his family, then we'd go to the actual vacation spot. I also set the boundary we'd stay in a hotel. They all seemed to agree. Then out of nowhere, my husband's family decided to go to our vacation spot for the full 8 days. That's when the hints began that we all get a house to rent. I said no, I love my husband's family, but it'd just be too much, and I wanted time just us. We don't need to be around each other 24/7. After that, my sister-in-law started making plans for all 8 days that included us. I put my foot down to my husband and said no, we could spend 4 days with his family, maybe 5. But I wanted just a few just us. We never get to go on vacation. And his family visits once or twice a year, so it's not like we don't see them. My husband says I've hurt his family's feelings. When I spoke to my sister-in-law, she said I should understand why it hurts I won't spend the entire time with them. I asked how they'd feel if they planned a trip and we tried to change the plan. She said family does this stuff for each other. Now, I'm already dreading the trip and wonder if I'm being overdramatic and should just give in to avoid drama. Am I the jerk? Edit. As it's already been asked, we chose this spot because it's somewhere our kids have always wanted to go. Of course, we can't give them everything they want in life, but now we can finally afford it. As I said, we never get to vacation, and I wanted to give this to them. Edit 2. We can't cancel or change dates as we put down non-refundable deposits. Edit 3. I understand that it is Reddit and people expect the craziest things to happen. I understand the concern that my husband would give them the address to the Airbnb and they'd just show up to intrude on our off days. However, knowing them, they aren't the type to do this. They will respect the actual boundary, but then you'll hear about it for the next 5 years. I am positive that they won't intrude on our off days. I'm sure people will call me naive, but my husband and I have been married 20 years. I know his family. This is how they are. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.